I am Eric Pennycoff. I'm the director and producer of this movie.
I am Scott Smith, and I am the producer of this movie.
Jesus Christ, we sound like NPR already.
I mean, that's what I was going for in this.
That dent in his car. He did so as a reminder to himself that...
So Scott, why don't you tell everyone about how much time I probably wasted overly complicating the setup of this shot versus what actually made it into the movie.
So this was probably the most time we spent on a single shot, and it was Eric and the camera and our cinematographer up above where Graham is. And how many times did you guys run through this?
Well, I think this is probably the most takes we ever did. I think 12 or 13 takes, and this is definitely 12 or 13. So definitely we shot a much lower ratio throughout the rest of the movie, averaging probably
And what
4 or 5.
What we're actually seeing is a fraction of what he actually ended up doing every single take, correct?
Yeah, when you become the editor on these things, the first pass, you kind of let it all play out the way that the director intended, but quickly the editor fires the director and says, no, this is the way it's going to be, and it plays out better, and you just kind of have to, put it past you that you ever spent that much time on a setup.
I think, like you said, the end product, it's a little shorter and sweeter, but I really like it this way. So,
yeah. I mean, the other thing with this take is that it's just the best performance, that Graham really gave on this one.
And I think, too, what you can't really tell is this church we're shooting in had no heating in it, so it was extremely cold in a church in February without heat.
Yeah, the fact that you see electrical tape and plastic bags around parts of the glass, it works for the story being a down-on-its-luck church, but that was definitely there prior to keep whatever little heat we had inside, which was not much.
Okay.
I miss these statues, though.
The inside of this church just looked so cool.
It's all right, Rigo. God's love can't be measured in dollars alone.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, the name of the game here was really set up the shot to where you could get stained glass in the background because we had minimal, if any, lighting. So really we were adherent to the little bit of daylight that's in this movie. So playing off of the stained glass was a priority.
And the way that stained glass and natural lighting worked is just so perfect for this, too.
Well, yeah, of course, Father. Well, I pray that our combined efforts is enough to inspire hearts and minds.
Well, have a blessed week. I'll see you soon.
You too, Father.
Yeah, and just a little bit of background on this place, too. We got quite lucky. This was a Catholic church. It was actually set up for Latin Mass, and what that means is that when you would stand at the altar, typically if you were performing the Eucharist, you would face away from the congregation, whereas a traditional Catholic Mass, you would face towards the congregation. So this is a pretty old church that fortunately was not being used. It was actually under the ownership of a restoration company that we made an agreement with, because certainly this movie probably would not be allowed to be made in an active Catholic church. I know specifically some of the dioceses more locally need full script approval, and that is something that never would have worked for this.
Yeah, and getting this church was such a game changer, and just how much bigger it makes the picture seem. It really feels like we had way more of a budget than we did.
Come on!
Would you say the next one we're going to shoot somewhere on an island?
Yeah, I promised everyone that we're going to go to a tropical island to make the next movie, but what they don't know is it's going to be probably the Costa Rican jungle littered with oversized mosquitoes and all sorts of critters.
I think it That sounds amazing compared to a polar vortex in Indiana in February. So
Should also probably make a note about Terry, the character of Terry here, his wardrobe, which was something that Jeremy Gardner was very excited to wear. Pants that did not fit him, shoes that had holes in it. I think the white New Balances are definitely in the wheelhouse of the Jeremy Gardner aesthetic. Graham got lucky, though. Graham, for the most part, wears the same thing this whole movie, so regardless of how he felt about it, I think it was, something that quickly grew on him, whereas Jeremy has a series of obnoxious costumes.
yeah, towards the end of the shoot, it was kind of strange to see Graham without a priest outfit on.
This little drone shot here that our director of photography, Romel Ganciana, beautifully pulled off. It's the only drone shot. Typically, I'm not a fan of drone activity. However, I did just see the new Michael Bay movie Ambulance, so that sort of reshaped my feelings on drones. But for the sake of this movie, it was one shot was all we needed.
I'm glad your opinion on it is shifting a little bit. And yeah, I love that shot in this film, just establishing them driving through the neighborhood. I think it turned out really nice.
What's your secret move when your lady's all bent out of shape? Give her a good old-fashioned chimney sweep? Have sex with
Now, this is a scene that, because the van that we were using was so small, so there was only room for our sound guy, cameraman, Eric, and then Jeremy and Graham here. And so all the rest of us, we weren't present for this. And watching the footage from that day, I wish I could have been in that van. It looked like it was a very funny time.
Well, I think really the motivating factor here for this scene was the prospect that at the end of this road there was a half-priced books, which is really what Jeremy was the most interested in getting to locally, was a local half-price book. So I think the prospect of doing this scene and getting him a little bit closer to that was certainly helpful.
What the hell? Lexi!
And here we see my house.
So this is a good example here, lighting setup wise, where the only light for these close-ups, we have a sky panel, which the great thing about those lights is it has this wonderful feature to really match the color temperature to what else is going on, which in the wide shot was just a street lamp. So quite happy with the way this turned out.
Yeah, these scenes turned out really great.
Oh, this thing smells like cat piss!
Plus the snow coming in at this moment is something that you just can't pay for. Just get lucky.
We got very lucky with the weather.
How about a hotel? Where I could take you to a family member.
About a week into the shoot, we got, I think it was 10 inches of snow, something around there, and we were very gracious. It definitely helped the aesthetic of this film a lot. So,
Yeah, the timing was tricky. This is a 3-week shoot. First 2 weeks were fairly bone dry. It was cold outside, but there was no snow, nothing. It was looking like these exteriors were just gonna, not have any snow, and it would be a dry Christmas movie. But then we lucked out the weekend before the last week when the exteriors were scheduled, and we got dumped on by a polar vortex, which beautiful for the film, exactly what we wanted. Certainly made the production and then getting around of it all much more difficult, but it's what we wanted.
yeah, it wasn't fun to work in, but the film definitely is better because of it. So.
So this entrance here into what is known to be David's house is a different location. That last shot you just saw and this shot here are two different places. The exterior of the house is the same as that foyer you saw, and then this living room and the preceding bedrooms are different location. It's just kind of the way the whole producing of this thing coupled stuff together. But fortunately, aesthetically and by some great magic from our cinematographer, managed to really glue all of these sets together.
And that was something that when we were shooting, it felt very strange using two locations at once. But yeah, like you said, Ramel just blended it so perfectly. And watching the film, you can't tell that they're two different places.
Yeah, there's a couple tricks later on that we do to really sell and somewhat oversell the idea that it's the same location. A few things that were pulled back on in the edit, but as I was editing this film, it was obvious to me that these are different locations, but once I started to refine it and watch it down and down, I eventually just either forgot or stopped paying attention to the fact.
I guess you ain't slept under too many bridges, huh?
There's extra blankets in the closet if you need any.
I've had a couple people ask me if it was intended that the colors Jeremy is wearing here are the same as Jesus Christ in the photo, in that portrait in the background. And while I want to say yes, this is a commentary, and I'll be honest, no, it is a bit of a coincidence. But the placement of that painting in relation to where he stands throughout different scenes in this movie certainly became a thing that we were focused on. Just, it's too funny to ignore.
You got it, buddy?
I didn't notice until right now that they were wearing the same colors, seeing that every single day.
We must always accept the truth of our guest's message. In order to offer hospitality, care, and compassion, we simply bring who we are and what we have to those in need. It is crucial.
Yeah, Graham really
First, before
just sort of nailed the whole tone of this character, especially during these Facebook posts. It's very specific in the writing. Conversations with him were very specific, and just the follow through to what we got on the day. I really couldn't be happier with this. Yes, Graham took this character quite seriously, which I think was a great point of amusement to all of us. It was really lovely. This song that comes in here, happy to have eventually licensed it, but it was the first song that I had thought of and eventually temped into the movie, which is by this group out of Brooklyn called Lotion Multi-Corporation, or they've changed their name a couple times. It's Lotion Multinational Corporation. Lotion stands for Legacy of Terror in Occupied Nations. That is the perfect culmination of punk, D-beat, grindcore, but also futuristic absurdity, something that I think matches what Terry's taste in music could be. It's not any one thing, the same way he's not any one thing.
No smoking inside.
Oh, hey, your light's been doing that for like the last hour. You want to show me where the box is? I'll take a look at it for you.
That's okay. I'll take a look at it tomorrow.
It was funny because I think we'd opened up this door and before we were setting up the scene, and Jeremy already had his shirt off, and I said, "Okay, I guess we do this scene shirtless."
I don't think that was the only instance of him improving being shirtless.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable having pulled off all of these church scenes over the 2 days that we had them, mostly because there are very few daytime scenes, but the majority of them are in the church, and having shot this in the dead of winter in January, there's very little time to get these setups, so we were moving fast.
Yeah, the few days we had in the church, it was definitely we crammed as much into it as we could. So
it's also interesting about this church. While it was not an active Catholic church at the moment when we filmed this, it did have a group of monks and nuns who were cloistered in the back. And it had been told to us that, they had been cloistered at a different location at some other point, and that they were living here. So we made this movie under the guise that there were nuns and monks living and listening to what we were doing.
that the nuns are something that I still live with, Eric. One day we showed up to shoot. We'd shot the previous day, and they had left us a big thing of water and gave us God's blessing and wished us luck on our film. They were very sweet. I don't think they knew exactly the format we were shooting, but they were very sweet ladies.
Well, I won them over because I had learned that they were recently cloistered at the church/school that I had attended as a child. I spent 16 years in Catholic school between grade school, high school, and a little bit of college. But the church that I had grown up going to, I found out that they had been cloistered there previously. So when they learned that, we had, some shop talk.
And I'm not religious, but I did make a donation to those nuns. They were very sweet. So
Yeah, it should be known that while I was raised Catholic and I live with tremendous amounts of Catholic guilt, I think Scott felt
Correct.
the guiltiest of all.
that was, yeah. Again, just the sweetest ladies.
This is all a lost cause.
Human life is never.
I mean, I feel like I gained some sort of penance because I returned a lot of these props that I had purchased from the Catholic Salvation store. I returned a lot of it, and I didn't ask for any money. I just gave it back to him. So
That's very
I
nice.
think as far as God and I are concerned, we're even.
Did you ever put a shortcut together of just nice scenes of the church to send to the nuns?
I haven't yet, but we do have a lot of really great footage of this church that I'd love to just give to them in general. A lot of stuff that didn't make the movie or camera tests, B-roll, things like that.
Around lepers, ate with tax collectors and sinners, forgave adulterers, and even broke Sabbath law.
You know, Scott, you actually have something in common with Jesus Christ. I don't know if you know this.
I'd like to hear.
You're both carpenters, because from what I remember, you either fashioned or helped create that crucifix that's in the background.
Well, I would give the credit to my brother-in-law, Sam. But yes, I did help in a very small way build the crucifix. It was mostly him building and me watching. So
JC would be proud.
Do not board up your homes for fear of.
One of my more memorable memories of shooting this was this scene right here, which I think turned out very well, and it was the very first thing that we shot with all three of them, which typically they say to schedule a reshoot of the first thing that you shoot because maybe it's not the best or you're still finding your footing, but I look fondly back at this scene, and I feel like we really kind of nailed the chemistry and the coverage and everything. There was a little bit we shot prior to this, but really this was kind of the first official setup.
And again, that's another really nice thing, having Graham and Jeremy and Taylor already being friends previous to this. They, off the bat, just started definitely feeding off each other. And this scene in particular, the first time we were able to do it, was really fun to watch. So.
And Lexi's character really has the best wardrobe in this movie. She has the most wardrobe changes, and a lot of credit should be given to our wardrobe designer, Gray Gordon, who sourced many of great things. Nonetheless, emoji pajama pants, but also this real rabbit fur coat, which him being a staunch vegan was very interesting to see him carrying this real stinky rabbit fur coat that clearly lived in a bowling alley for a number of years. But it was pretty perfect for Taylor's character.
Yeah, and I also wanted to point out, especially this opening establishing shot of Taylor's character, her makeup looks just exactly perfect as what I pictured the character, and that definitely goes to Hannah. Hannah Dorian did all of our makeup for the film, and just off the bat, I think she did a phenomenal job, and we were lucky to get her on this. So.
Yeah, Hannah and I talked a lot about Teen Mom and various reality shows of exploitative natures in terms of what she would look like. A big point of inspiration for this movie and sort of the the circulating aesthetic is
Breathe. What do you want?
the best of the Jerry Springer show in a lot of ways. I remember there was a time while I was writing this movie that the only two things I could really muster up the energy to watch during the first COVID lockdown were episodes of the Jerry Springer show as well as Charles Lawton's The Night of the Hunter. And looking back on this, I feel like those two polar opposites are, sort of the tent poles for this movie.
I mean, I watched the first season of Flavor of Love during the lockdown, so I'm glad that didn't come off in the film.
Yeah, you frequently watch Rock of Love with Bret Michaels, don't you?
No, I do not. I should get into that. I enjoyed Flavor of Love.
On the record or off the record, I'm fairly certain you do.
On the record, I wish I did.
The two of them are just great here. I mean, I remember cutting this together and just, laughing in real time because Jeremy's ability to sob and sort of exploit himself as someone who needs help is just, rich with options.
Okay. Oh, David, one more thing. Do you think maybe we could turn the heat up just like a scotch, just like a little bit?
Good night, Terry.
Yeah, okay. You're right. Good.
I love all of the little improvs Jeremy comes up with, like a scotch. It's definitely a Jeremy Gardner saying.
Yeah, it gets to a point where I'm often asked, how much of your movies are improv versus scripted, and it's one of those things where I really don't remember. I'd have to go back and read the script, but I write these and I direct them and I edit them and I produce them, but it really, once the writing of the script is done, it's kind of the writer in me just kind of moves on to the next thing. So if there's something better to say or do on set and it works, I mean, there's no hesitation ever.
And you're definitely more of a director. The lines stay mostly to the script, but everyone is adding their own style, and I've never seen you really get too opinionated if somebody changes the lines. As long as it fits the scene and feels good, you let it happen. So
Jeremy might disagree with you on that.
I think he might.
A couple lines, specifically one I can think of that he still doesn't understand.
I think I know what you're talking about.
There's a couple later on.
We don't have anywhere else.
It's all right, Lexi. I understand your pain.
I do wonder if Gray will be upset that he spent so much time and energy trying to find me emoji-themed pajama pants, and you really only see her wearing them for a brief moment when she walks into the room. I know those were a source of great pain for him to locate, but even for that one shot, I think it's well worth it.
It was worth him finding them, yeah.
I've counseled several couples, and I've seen firsthand how God's love can strengthen relationships and save lives. Also, our Christmas Eve Midnight Mass is this Saturday. I'd like for you both to be there. There's no need.
Scott, did you ever go to midnight mass as a kid?
Yes. So my father would make me go once a year. Christmas Eve, we would have to go. And I always got out of it because they would burn the incense, and I said it gave me a headache. So me and my mom would go sneak out and just hang out outside.
Yeah, it was always bullshit. I just wanted to go home. Santa Claus was coming.
Well, that was the nice thing growing up, is my dad was very Catholic. My mom was not. So me and my mom would make excuses to get out of church and go hang out in the car.
Whoops. Sorry about that.
Now, Terry, please remember that we should not dismiss people simply because we don't immediately know them. Christ welcomed all into his home, even if he was just a guest.
Right. No, you're right. I'm sorry about that, buddy. You want a beer or something, man?
And
Just
Terry,
the way
remember our agreement?
Jeremy is standing and the way that he's turning his... It's just something so feral about him in this. I really do love it. He looks purely unhinged.
Jeremy has the ability to just absolutely embody whatever character he's in, and I think he just nails this performance.
This is a movie full of insane people, which is one of the reasons why I felt the character of Rigo was so important. And Rigo himself embodied this sort of observer so well, who's just trying to keep up with the energy of what's going on, which is always one step ahead of him, and he's never totally privy to what's going on when he's not around. But he perfectly embodies this deer in the headlights at certain moments.
The house. My house.
Again, like you said, I think he is definitely just the viewer of the situation. He's the character with his foot grounded in reality and just witnessing all these things happen before him.
Why don't you show me
There is the cross that my brother-in-law and I built for the film.
Yeah. This crucifix in the background, I believe, comes from Scott's personal collection. Not that he's particularly religious, but I think, just to keep the spirits at bay, as well as strands of garlic and other things that hang around his house.
My house is fully decorated in a Catholic aesthetic, yes.
Pure heroine for the Lord. Christ, you hold the throne.
I remember Rigo being kind of nervous to shoot this scene where he has to awkwardly rap with all of us in the room.
Well, the awkward rap comes full circle, and if you're listening to this, you've clearly picked up the Arrow Blu-ray, and there's a very nice special feature. It is the music video with the full song that we recorded and had a music video made from. It's kind of a nice wrap up to the Rigo saga.
I still have not seen the full thing, so I look forward to watching it.
Fine, it's all right. I just needed you to turn down the music.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
This is another scene here where I think we did a lot of takes of this, not because there was anything wrong with it, but I think that we just hit such a,
Church music.
energy level. I think we just all laughed so much that we decided keep going and one up it. And it was, this was one of those times while editing that I had to, just kind of commit to one while they were all very funny.
Well, and the song he's singing right here that he's making up, every take Jeremy was singing something completely different, and they were all equally as funny.
Funny feeling in my stomach. Nothing good night's
This is one of my favorite moments of this movie here, which I find quite funny. I don't know if anyone else does, but yeah, you'll see it here.
You can always record in my place, right?
It's all right, Rigo. This house is for everyone.
This house is for everyone. Now get the fuck out. Oh. He's very unaware of his own contradiction there. And that breath that you just saw come out of Graham's mouth, very real. House was very cold, and certainly, in prepping for this movie, there was a lot of talk about, how do you get proper cold breath to come out of people's mouths without CG or making the set negative 20 degrees like they did in The Exorcist or any of those gags. But fortunately, it just was negative 20 degrees in that house and for the majority of making this movie. So
The church, that location, we were fortunate that there was no heating. Worked great for the movie, but it had a lot of heaters offset.
Yeah, heaters? Was this a studio movie?
When I say that, I mean space heaters where everyone's huddled around in a small room.
I don't know about that. We had hand warmers. We had cars running.
That is true. That was a big help.
So, there's some regional specificity to this scene. Anyone, I don't know how many of you listening are from Fort Wayne, Indiana, or if you have a Penguin Point in your town, but Penguin Point is this local fast food chain that's known for its buckets of chicken and burgers and all sorts of other monstrosities for one's diet. But her applying for a job at Penguin Point and subsequently bringing home a bucket of chicken just kind of became this thing that felt so disgusting and right for the movie.
Like raps about God and shit.
I'm not.
It's hard for me to watch this scene. When we shot this, by the time we got to shooting this, that chicken was not fresh. And Jeremy dug in. He never complained once. So, well, he dug in and did it.
It's not that it's not fresh. I mean, it had been sitting for maybe an hour since it had been delivered, but, you know, I don't think that there was any
It
risk in eating the chicken.
No, absolutely not. It was.
Rigo's come a long way since
I'm glad I didn't have to shoot this scene.
Yeah. I think Jeremy and I both knew that, you know, when it comes to a fried chicken scene, you really got to do everything you can to give Killer Joe a run for its money.
when I heard what sounded like the voice of an angel coming from the stall next to me. He's living
So
proof
there's the penguin right there.
Yep.
Why we have a penguin mascot in Northeast Indiana, I could not tell you why, but I did receive a written sign-off from the CEO of Penguin Point in an official letterhead giving us permission to use the logo and the likeness of Penguin Point, and that's something that I still need to get framed.
That's a highlight of your career right there.
It's the same one I lent Rigo some time ago. Allow it to strengthen your relationship with God. Let it spark curiosity about the mysteries of life. There's a great deal of wisdom and insight spoken throughout.
I think that's what would happen if Scott were to lift a Bible.
Yeah, it's been many years. Yeah, we'll have to try that out sometime.
Most importantly, marriage are not simply about loving one another. They're about loving one another through God in what we call the transcendental third. Now, the concept...
So this whole sequence here, if I remember right, I think it's the second thing that we shot, or the first thing on the second night. And it was the majority of the night. It's a long scene. I believe it's 13 pages. It's certainly the longest cue as far as the music is concerned once that comes in. And, you know, it's certainly the longest scene I've ever shot. It really sort of storyboarded it and broke it into chunks to cover it the way that we wanted to. But quite happy with the way it eventually turned out.
And I remember us talking before this day when we were just breaking down the shoot schedule that we knew this was going to be the biggest day. And not only that, being at the second day, we only had Taylor for 1 week. So that first week is when we shot all of our hardest shots, the most intense stuff. And it was a lot crammed into that first week of shooting, and then things kind of got easier outside of the weather. So
Yeah, well, I mean, all of the most intense scenes, you know, she is in, really from here to the end of the movie is where she's in the bulk of the scene. So all of that was done first, which was certainly the more emotionally taxing stuff to shoot. And then towards the second and third week, it became a little more relaxed and enjoyable in terms of the content of the story, I guess.
All right, look, you can bless it if you have to.
You know, he ain't gonna stop till you say yeah.
She's right.
I think that's what attracted me to him in the first place. He's like this big, wet dog that you just want to take inside and
I guess the other thing we haven't spoken about yet in this scene is Mama's painting in the background.
I was waiting for you to bring that up.
Yeah,
I was going to bring that up next.
Mama's painting, it's a really wonderful piece of work painted by Dusty Neal, who's a very talented, well-regarded painter and tattoo artist. And I remember when we first came into this location trying to figure out, well, where does this painting go? I knew in the story it needed to be between both camps for this scene. It needed to be a point of contention between David and them. And we just came into this location, and there's this spot that's well below eye level from where I imagined it. But when we started to block out this scene, it made sense. It's like she's sitting there with them. It's
Well, now I remember when we first got to this location, we were setting up the room and we were trying to figure it out. And it's just like, this was made for Mama's picture. This spot is just so perfect.
It's an odd choice, and it was an odd location, but for the sake of where this painting really takes effect, which is during this scene and one scene towards the end, it worked for it to be so low. It's I believe someone on set referred to it as being at blowjob height.
Look, David. Now, you got plenty of time to work on your big speech for Saturday, okay? Just gonna have a couple drinks with us. A few laughs,
Can you remember the line when Jeremy comes in and describes Mama for the first time? All the different variations that Jeremy used.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the one that's in the film was always a consistent. You know, who's the bulldog? That's pretty good.
Didn't he?
a few
Ronald
different
Reagan,
things.
I think, was my favorite.
Oh, I don't know.
All right. I'll get us started. Never have I ever rang a doorbell. And since we have all rang a doorbell, we all drink.
All right, I got it now.
No, David, you gotta shoot it.
I really can't.
No, you gotta shoot it, David. Come on, now it's wine. It goes down easy. Just
Scott, do you remember the first time you played Never Have I Ever?
I do, yes. I
Did,
believe I was 16 and drunk at a party.
Did it end the way the scene ends?
Never have I ever. Have I ever.
On the record?
okay, baby.
No.
You got it.
Never have I ever fallen out of a tree.
This was really one of the first cues that our composer, Eric Romery, put together. And, you know, he really went for it. I think the idea is that, you know, start with the hardest one, the longest one, and really establish the tone. And this
Ever been sent to the principal's
whimsical quartet, essentially, of instruments really works well for establishing the fun-naturedness of the movie, being fun until it's not.
Never have I ever
Yeah, I love this part.
missed Mass on Sunday.
You got me there.
We often referred to it as a Hallmark movie from hell.
Never have I ever
Are you talking about the film or Romery?
Lent.
Talking about my life, Scott.
Your turn.
Now, when him and I were first talking about, you know, what does this movie sound like? What is it really going for? You know, there's the back half of it is what the back half is, and him and I have worked in that wheelhouse before, but this style here is new to both of us, both in terms of kind of mapping it out and composing it. But we talked about having fun with it like it could be a Hallmark movie or something more family friendly, but knowing that it's going to take a turn.
You did not.
It was a long time ago.
Details.
It was just a club.
What kind of club? Like,
You know, it was a regular club. You know, one with guys and girls, of course.
Never have I ever been in handcuffs, both because of and not because of the police. Ow!
she's fucking with me.
Scott, how much alcohol did the cast actually consume during the making of this?
Oh, this is all real alcohol on the set. So. No.
Everyone is completely drunk. You know, we're lucky that the camera's in focus because we were all sloshed. We all couldn't help but just play the game along with them.
What they are actually drinking is
I'm sorry.
tea mixed with water, which I never tasted it, but I did make a lot of it for this shot. So
Yeah, Scott and I are both very avid fans of Trailer Park Boys. Maybe it's apparent in some of the debaucherous nature of the movie, but certainly the old iced tea working as whiskey trick, something.
that's what
Something
I
that-
learned from Trailer Park Boys.
Something that Mr. Dunsworth is responsible for.
Yeah, John Dunsworth is the person who taught me the tea substitute. I can't remember. Did the piss jug make it into the final cut of this?
No,
film?
the piss jug did not.
Okay.
The piss jug was nice. I have nothing against piss jugs, you know, in reference to Trailer Park Boys either. We had a piss jug. It worked for the scene, but the scene didn't work for the pace. Ultimately got cut out.
Well, if there's any Trailer Park Boys fans out there, we did shoot a piss jug. It just did not make it into the final cut.
Heard somebody else having sex.
Yeah, the change in the music here is quite nice. I remember hearing the score for the first time and thinking right about here is where it really kind of sold me on the effectiveness of where the cue turns.
This is, I think, in my opinion, where the film really changes and takes off and puts us in this weird, fantastical world that we wind up in.
Cold-blooded, this one right here. It's cold, David. It's cold.
I like him.
Yeah, I like him too.
I'm sorry. I'm very.
I'm very drunk.
Never have I ever fucked a man.
Far too much.
I believe this painting here, I know I got it from the Catholic Salvation Army here in town, but I believe Scott took this home with him to add to his collection.
Again, yeah, my house is very aesthetically Catholic.
Yeah.
Eric donated some of it, but I wanted to keep a lot.
In the house, please.
It's only paper. You want to try it?
No. Give up.
And also, I don't think we've mentioned, we shot this at the beginning of 2021. We were still very much in the pandemic when shooting this. So when this shot right here of her handing him the vape pen, we had to be cautious of Graham having his own, Taylor having her own, and it was definitely an experience shooting this film in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, so we call that the old COVID switch right there, where she has her own with lipstick that she had put her lips on, but she hands him a different one for the reverse shot that we had gotten lipstick on. Did we put lipstick on Graham and have him put it on the tip of it so it would match? I remember we were very specific about that detail.
It had to come from him. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
He
I like the COVID switch.
the COVID switch. I mean, you know, everyone had to pull together and really go for it. Least of which was maybe Graham putting on lipstick. I don't remember.
This shot right here is one of the most frustrating shots to me personally of this film. You can see the lights are spinning, and it's me and Luke sitting next to the couch trying to spin this huge heavy light, the lamp that you saw previously on the end table, and we're trying to spin this glass shade, and it turned out great. I mean, it wasn't fun to shoot, though.
Juiced up is all.
It was an honest mistake.
Oh, I know what one of the lines was that Jeremy was disputing with me. We've already passed it, but when he says that they both got kicked out of the Tit on Valentine's Day, I don't think Jeremy could fathom why anyone would call a strip club the Tit. But as Scott can attest, being from Indiana,
That's
I don't know, everyone
literally
here
what
just
I
calls
call
it the Tit because we have multiple strip clubs to choose from. So it's not, hey, let's go to this one or that one. Let's go to the Tit.
I remember that point of contention, and I was like, that is legitimately what I say to my friends is, yo, do you want to go to the Tit?
Yeah.
That's what we call it here in Indiana.
Ultimately, Jeremy gave in to my request there, but I think he said it with an air of, what the fuck are these guys calling it the Tit for?
He's from Florida. There's way weirder terms down there.
So I also know that Graham also lived in that bedroom while we made this.
That is correct, yes.
So this location, was a functioning house with Graham living in the bedroom that his character lives in, and then Jeremy and Taylor living in the room that their characters stay in. So it's, I suppose you could say method.
Well, and we also had the downstairs apartment. We had, Ramel lived there too, our cinematographer. And then below this, Luke and Rigo both lived too, who are part of our crew.
Now, I believe these are all costumes that came out of Scott's closet, from what I can remember. Or did we buy these?
No, I still own them.
Fortunately, we have a couple infamous adult novelty stores here in town that were able to provide us with what we needed.
I remember I bought the first strap-on and showed it to Eric, and your exact words were, "That's not big enough."
Is that what I said?
I think so, yes.
Well, it was that little pathetic purple one, though, right?
No, it wasn't purple, but it wasn't large, I agree.
Good morning, sleepyhead. Did you get the goodies I laid out for you?
I really love the way Taylor looks in this scene.
I was
She
getting
looks,
ready to say the same thing.
You know, my love for Teen Mom and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and any sort of debased reality TV really comes in here.
Well, and that shot, too, was the first still we put out when we announced the film. And I immediately messaged her. I'm like, you look amazing in this.
Actually, I got a call back from Penguin Point, so I'll be gone for a little bit. Fingers crossed. What is so damn funny?
Well, you're playing with my foot. It
I
tickles.
kind of forget exactly how the feet came into play here. I don't believe this was in the script. Her painting his toenails, maybe it was.
That's a good question. I can't remember either.
Oh boy, I can feel the cold.
Oh, I know the scene when I can feel the cold.
I strayed from your path and fell prey to temptation, and I know that I should not have. I wanted friendship and companionship, and I lost sight.
Yeah, I remember there was a tiny hole.
That is also my film screen debut right there.
I just remember that at a certain point while filming in this church, we heard what sounded like a chainsaw in the distance, and we just kept trying to figure out where the sound was coming from. Who is running a chainsaw in the neighborhood at 9 a.m. in the middle of a nuclear winter snowstorm. And it was not a chainsaw, but a tiny, the smallest hole in a piece of stained glass that the wind whistling through, it sounded like a chainsaw. So I believe at that point we had the illustrious Luke LeCount, the true multi-hyphenate of this movie in every regard, was positioning his finger on the hole for a good duration of being in this church.
To Luke, too, out of everyone who worked on this film, everybody did amazing. I think Luke wore I think he wore the most hats on this film. He did damn near everything.
And you might be wondering, well, why did he have to have his finger on the hole? Why not just put, gaff tape or something over it? And the reason for that is I actually don't know. Why did we have Luke stand there with his finger on the hole? Or maybe that was for a couple takes, and then the more sensible Ramel, the DP, brought it to our attention that no, you just fucking put gaff tape on it and not have this guy stand in the background with his thumb on a hole.
Again, Luke wore many hats. He did what he could. And
he wore many hats except for the appropriate clothing to wear in winter.
Oh, yeah, but he looked great the entire shoot.
I think it should be known that I was the only one who was properly dressed for winter.
Would you like to describe your outfit for all of our exterior shots?
It's basically a Michael Myers style jumpsuit.
More heavy metal music, cursing, or
We were all very jealous of you.
Yeah, I got you.
understand?
All right, yeah, listen, all right, I hear you. Come on, man, I'm reading the Bible. I'm actually learning a lot. A couple drinks and some wicked tunes ain't gonna change.
I mean, the two of them just going back and forth at each other here is.
Last night was a mistake.
I think Tom and Jerry is a big inspiration for their relationship. If I could give one of them a sledgehammer to hit the other one on top of the head with, I might have.
Wait, what?
He looks absolutely feral in this moment.
He does. This scene is where I learned how to tie a bag of cocaine from, because I had to do it. And I'd never done it before having to do it in this scene.
Yeah, I believe we had a technical advisor for some of this stuff on set. Did we not?
Yeah. He was great. He had a lot of experience with it. So.
All right, it's down. It's gone. It's all gone. Stop.
This scene is one
Don't you feel
that
better now?
ran out much longer than what made it in the movie, because there was just, I think we continued to up the comedy of where does he have cocaine hidden on him, whether it's in his shoe or in a pocket or behind his ear or anything. We just kind of kept running it.
Rock music, nothing with profane lyrics.
I remember we had to keep shooting it, so more bags of cocaine were needed. Which, obviously, you can tell on film, that is real cocaine that we are flushing down the sink. And I asked one of the cast or one of the crew to start tying me bags of cocaine, and our technical advisor came up and said, "You have obviously never done this before."
I remember Graham came up to me at a certain point during the making of this movie. I don't remember when, but he said, this movie is very body positive. And I said, you know what? I like that. I think you're right. It is. And looking at it now, I think it is a very body positive movie. A lot of people just kind of bear it all and let it all hang out. I think we were sort of this collective mindset that there's really nothing we wouldn't go for with the making of this movie. And I think part of that's accredited to coming out of the 2020 lockdown, all of just the angst and anxieties around an election year and everything going on. I think we were all just so happy to see each other, let alone make a movie where certainly we may have wondered, is this the last movie we'll ever make? Because the fate of mankind seemed completely up in the air, still at this point.
I think when we shot this, too, a lot of us in the cast and crew, this is the most people we'd been around in over a year. Well, almost a year. And I think everyone was just excited to be around people again. And this movie benefited from it. So.
It was 10 of us total. Really, it was a crew of 6 and a cast of 4. No one in, no one out. We all lived together in this location, which added to the sort of the bubble nature of all of it. But it was it's interesting making a movie during this time. In some ways, I felt that it was incredibly focused, that because there was no option of going out to dinner or going to do this or going to do that elsewhere around town. It's just everyone was more focused on what had to get done, which is don't fuck up and let's finish this movie and have everyone get out of here safe.
Yeah, and I think from at least my personal take on it is we shot this in 3 weeks. And when you're living in this bubble of a family, all we have is this movie. So, I mean, sure, we had on the weekends, we would do some things together, but mostly it was for 3 weeks solid, we're focused on this movie. And it was a unique experience, but it felt good.
I think we all watched Tammy and the T-Rex together, I remember.
We did. And this is also me standing in for Jeremy in this shot.
Yeah, so this is not actually Jeremy or Taylor for the doubles. I believe they had left town already. Just the order in which we had scheduled this movie to continue to shoot until it was all just down to scenes with David by himself. But this setup right here, this backyard location, is proximity not the same location as the previous shot, so the curtain you saw that was pulled back was all built and staged and
this
designed to kind of glue these different locations together.
That was what you just saw was the backyard of the entranceway. Those are the same locations, and then all the interiors outside of that are another location.
Hey!
Where did you get this?
Look, it's not a big deal. So I found another tape. Are you gonna congratulate her or what?
Yeah, David, congratulate me.
Congratulations on the job. We're all very proud of you, but I'm afraid I have no more patience for lewd behavior.
Graham is
The two of you want to continue
absolutely delightful in this moment. I mean, just purely on the edge of insanity, as he should be.
And you will meet me in the backyard.
He does a thing with his eyes. He's done it in several movies and certainly took it to a new level for this.
Are you kidding me? That's our shit!
The burning of impurities. From this point forward, we forget everything.
Well, I remember doing this scene, it was difficult because it was cold out and everyone was complaining about how cold out it was. I said, well, you guys, come on. I made a fire for all of you. I mean,
That fire.
it's the least, I mean,
Okay, I made the fire, by the way.
But the director's providing the fire here.
No, the producer provided the fire.
I wrote the fire.
You wrote the fire.
I knew it would
produced
be cold.
the fire.
It was very
This
adamant.
was a very cold night. Again, we were in a polar vortex, it was not an ordinary Indiana winter. It was worse.
I was very adamant about shooting this scene on an 85 millimeter through the flames because, just thinking about First Blood and John Rambo sitting there through the flames and the camera.
I love
seeing
this
through
shot
it.
of the police badge melting.
Yeah, that's Scott's favorite part of the movie.
That honestly might be, yes.
Scott went from shedding a tear when the dildo was getting burned to, being very excited when the cop badge was being
We're burning
badge was
cop
being burned.
things? Now I'm very happy.
See, Mary and Joseph stuck it out for the future of their child, our savior. We never know what the unborn have in store for us, much less for the lives of others.
I'm trying to remember if Taylor took this outfit home with her. I mean, I remember it was written and designed and planned to be, this moment as the sort of a drastic change between what they looked like under their own agency and what they become under the instruction of David. But I believe she says she thought it was cute and she could see herself wearing it. And while that's nice to know, I thought, oh, maybe this outfit is not as uncomfortable or as ugly as I thought. But I do know it was based off of what Kathy Bates wears in Misery when she finally sits down to dinner with James Caan.
And I would like to say this, too, for everyone that doesn't know. Taylor and Jeremy actually got married this year. And I thought she looked so good. I went to their wedding. I thought she was going to wear it down the aisle. She didn't. I think that was a mistake, but she still looked gorgeous.
Yeah, I question how much she really did like this dress if she wasn't wearing it at her wedding.
I agree. Yeah.
Baby, that ain't fair.
Terry,
Don't say that.
it's okay. Let her go. She needs time alone.
The three of them, this is just a testament to their chemistry that was worked out in rehearsals, but certainly on the day. Just the overlapping dialogue of that moment is something that, certainly we were trying to really nail. There's really nothing I did in the editing to get that to line up as well. They spoke over the top of each other, and it was masterfully boomed and mixed by our location recordist, Eric Romery, as well, who did a great job in capturing that whole moment, and it played out and timed out perfectly.
Yeah. Eric also, our first movie, Sadistic Intentions, he was also our sound guy, and unbelievable. One of the most professional in the business, and it's always such a pleasure to work with him. So,
I'm sure she'll come to her senses soon enough.
also from Fort Wayne, how we all know each other.
That image right there is a live screenshot from Scott's Facebook page.
David, listen to me. This was not my fault, okay? It was her fault.
Some bullshit.
This is my favorite part of the movie with Jeremy's character.
A dustpan and a broom. Quickly.
It wasn't my fault.
Oh, Taylor's killing
Do you put mama?
it. You put Mama in this.
What if I go get the vacuum? We can suck up all the little bits of her and we can.
Prayers. Go to bed. Both of you.
I mean, the framing of Mama in the background, it just became so obvious once we got it in that
Dude,
spot.
when we got those couches in that spot, it's like, this is perfect.
It felt serendipitous. I mean, the location presented a number of challenges in other ways, but for the sake of
You got company?
the scenes in that room, it worked out quite well.
I love him sneaking away the bottle of liquor.
This really became an extended Christmas for myself. We shot this in January, coming off the heels of Christmas. I remember sort of getting in the Christmas spirit come early December, watching all of the classics like I do for these different holiday months, but
Talking
remembering
Bob
that,
Clark then.
just remembering that I had to also preserve what love I have for the holidays past Christmas and just not burn myself out because we were making a Christmas movie afterwards.
Well, I remember there are some exterior shots in this film later on that required me and Eric in January hanging up Christmas lights, and people were driving by and they had to have been thinking, what the hell are these people doing? This is weeks after Christmas.
Yeah, I certainly looked like a deranged crackhead hanging off of the
in your
roof,
Michael
stringing
Myers
Christmas lights
outfit.
with a tan Carhartt Michael Myers outfit on and sunglasses.
Question me. I found you sleeping in a public restroom, all right?
This is actually how I met Scott when we were 14. I found him sleeping in a public restroom.
Oh, it was a hard time. I was going through a rough time. You were 16? And we found ourselves in a trucker's bathroom together. Yeah, that's our origin story. So.
You know, Rigo actually took this shirt with him, too. I believe he purchased this from wardrobe department afterwards. He liked the fit so much, and I don't blame him. It looks great on him.
Rigo was the one person that, like, everything we put on, like, dude, you could rock any of that.
That's the difference between Rigo's character and Jeremy's character, is that everything that Rigo put on looked great, and everything Jeremy put on looked great for the movie, but horrible for him as a human being.
That's so funny.
You've twisted his message around so much that you don't even know what it means anymore.
Leave! Rigo?
Oh, was that the Santa that was supposed to climb on its own, but it never worked?
Yeah,
It always kept kicking its
better
legs.
than it malfunctioned. So these two shots right here, one location, different location here. We
Yes,
built a fake stair set out
again.
of
That's what I was talking about.
apple boxes and chairs
Flows so good.
for Graham to sort of walk down in the foreground to tie those two spots together. It originally was conceived as a much more technically ambitious approach, and when that didn't work, we scaled it down a bit.
I remember shooting this scene, and I was sleep deprived, and you were filling in for Taylor, and reading these lines to Graham as he spoke back, and all I thought was, man, we should have kept that in. It should have just been Eric's voice.
It's funny, I've seen this pattern on the grading between them in different places in my life since making this movie.
David, hey! Ha-ha! Where you been, buddy? Baby David's back. Listen, we gotta talk, man.
Not now.
No, it's real important. It's about Lexi. She's,
I'm pregnant.
Well, of course you are. Glad you finally decided to tell him.
David, there's a chance it's yours, man. I mean, we both popped off in her, remember?
So that line there.
That was my favorite one when he said that.
So that's in the script, popped one off, and Jeremy could not fathom
What was the one that he came up
why anyone even within Terry's orbit would ever phrase something as popped off in her.
What was his
it flowed though. I don't it just made sense to me.
But there was one he did that we all really squeezed one off, I think was one of them.
Yeah, he had one that was,
what was it? I can't think of it.
To his credit, it was still gross and completely uncalled for, but it just didn't have the same ring to it.
No, I like what we that was another instance of multiple takes of everyone just cracking up when Jeremy delivered the scene.
These are the long, hard conversations we have at 3 a.m.
This is Graham exploding for the first time on them.
Yeah, these scenes with the three of them, they turned out really well. I mean, there was never. I think even in all the takes I had to choose from, I don't remember any of them being like, two of them were good, but one of them's kind of slacking or anything. All of them were cranked to 11. This just happened to be the best amalgamation of a couple different shots.
I do not do that, and I've never stepped foot in your shitty church either.
Fine, then I want you out. I want you both out.
All these scenes with Graham going to 10, it just felt like he would almost hit it at 10 the first take, and then just very small things. He's such a great actor. It was really fun to watch him work without.
It's always funny with our location sound recorder asking the group to give him a level because he was booming and mixing. So that became important to get that up front. And it usually resulted in one of them just screaming really loud and him being, all right, that's the level, because the scene would be just that.
Baby, please. All right, I said how sorry. It was an accident. I just don't understand why we can't just all have a couple of fucking drinks and iron this shit out.
Look at what you did to my face.
I know. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Just stop fucking back. Will you just stop fucking backing and listen to me? Now listen. David has the house, right? And you got the job. And I could just stay home with the kid. I don't even understand what the fucking problem is.
You're the only one that wants this.
Oh, Taylor looks so good. And again, that is thanks to Hannah Dorian. She just knocked it out of the park on this one.
You don't do no such thing.
Are you calling the cops, David? I wouldn't do that if I were you.
I like that you have a good view of the Nutcracker in the background. It seems
Tell them what's going on.
perfectly fitting for the movie.
Or hell, maybe one of them big city newspapers just loves to do reporting on holy folk gone bad. Remind me again, where did you find Rigo? Is that a truck stop bathroom? Tell me, how old was he?
There was a big hang-up. Do you remember the hang-up here about where we placed the telephone?
Well, this scene was one of the harder ones to stage and figure out. Just the nature of this location didn't present a lot of the obvious staging points like a traditional house would. So this was kind of moved around a couple times and a few things were changed, but I think it turned out good. And I mean, the two of them are just completely in control.
Why don't you go get yourself cleaned up?
Any scene with just Graham and Jeremy going one-on-one, it was awesome to shoot, but it's also really cool to, as also a horror fan, to watch.
December 25th.
So this was the last time that we were in the church.
This is one of the most scared I've ever been in my entire life.
Well, we had made an agreement with the people who owned this church to be making what we made here. But, as I'd mentioned before, there was this constant question mark of these nuns and these monks that we were told were cloistered and living and residing in the back. And, we ran into a couple of them a couple times. They would come out during the day and say hello or give us a pitcher of water. Very, very sweet people. But this night, this was probably 2:30 in the morning, maybe 1 or so. But, this was the moment where everything we'd been doing up until this was pretty straightforward and mild-mannered. But I think this was... I remember this first take when we heard Graham explode. I think we all
echoed.
We all looked at each other and said, all right, well, they had to have heard that. I don't know where these monks and where these nuns are living, if they're right behind us or in another building behind us, but it's so loud and so reverberated that they had to have heard it. So we really only got a couple takes. We got 3 takes of this, but Graham knew the score. He's a team player. He knows that this is not a setup that we have endless time to figure out. So he really, just channeled his inner Marlon Brando as far as I'm concerned, and just kind of
Him,
let it roar. But we all looked at each other and said, well, they just had to have heard that. You know, we're going to get kicked out of here now. What was that scream?
My words are his words, and his words will be heard.
David, you gotta help me, man. You gotta help me. I fucked up so bad this time, David. I really fucked up bad. She wouldn't listen to me, David. She's gonna leave us, man. She's gonna leave us.
What did you do to her?
Fucked up so fucking bad. She was gonna leave us, David. What fucking listen to me? What's happening to me, David? Ah! God, it hurts.
What is that?
It's Mama, David. It's Mama. I snorted Mama! I snorted Mama! Oh, David! I snorted Mama, David!
Don't worry. We're keeping it.
So this shot right here, when I say this was the very, very first thing we did prior to Jeremy.
Yeah, this is
arriving in
actually
town.
this is the first that scene with her.
This was a prep day, but we had, Taylor and David, or Taylor and Graham together. And I said, well, really,
Yeah,
this
we
is the only
discussed-
scene in the movie where it's just the two of you outside of the confessional scene, which we didn't have her for because she's off camera. So we were able to shoot quite a few takes of that setup that you just saw, and we kind of got our bearings set for that.
Well, we shot that on the pretense of everyone was here and, hey, let's just test it out, read the camera, and feel like it's okay. And we actually used the take in the film. And
It was also the first instances of us tearing apart a bedroom and flipping a bed over.
off the bat.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to be tearing shit apart for the duration of this movie, so we might as well get it going there. And, all that kind of climax is here in a moment with a door.
I want to point
being
out the
ripped from the
shotgun
hinges.
scene. I'm a fan of that.
I believe this was Scott's Bible also, already loaded with shotgun shells.
No, the shotgun shells are not mine. The Bible is.
But this was a long night. That's all I can really recall for this.
So
But yeah,
much
this
detail.
door here.
Oh, the best scene right here. We lucked out on that.
Serendipitous. We broke the fuck out of that door. Eventually got it back on some hinges, but that consisted of a late night run to Walmart to get some new hinges. But yeah, there are multiple things in this house that we had really kind of beat to hell for our needing. That door.
We
being
left
one
it
of
for
them.
the better, though. I think we improved it.
Oh my god, Rigo? Oh god, Rigo!
Hey, is he giving you shit in there again?
Oh no! What?
Oh, whoa, man.
You? How are you? What's Rigo doing here?
Well, he came over to apologize. He even brought some big old plate of cookies.
Someplace to raise a child.
Oh, yeah, no, he's dead as fuck. Yeah, we gonna have to burn that body. Hey, what are you doing? Get off your feet, all right? We gotta go downstairs.
Scott, can you remember what we used to fill out this makeshift tarp body bag? Because I cannot until we got Rigo in it.
Oh shit! We used? I remember it was something that didn't have any weight because Grant he was pulling it too quick at first. Do you remember that?
Might have been something mixed wrapped in ferny pads. I forget.
I remember us having to reshoot it, and you're like, yeah, you're making it look way too light.
So I actually had to cut out the head chop because Graham had really killed Rico.
Yeah, Rico's no longer with us, if people didn't know. No,
Full disclaimer, we did not.
No one was hurt.
Graham is doing well, and Rico is plenty alive.
Everything okay?
There's nothing to worry about. I took care of everything. Here, this herbal tea will help settle the nerves. It's family.
I had an image of the three of them in this part of the movie, in another movie, just sort of all sharing one big bed, laying feet to feet like the family in the beginning of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
That's two on the nose.
It's just, there's this theme of the the family coming together. I just really wish I'd gone full Willy Wonka with it. Just had them all in the bed together.
On the record, those situations end up in sex. Off the record, I don't know.
Yeah, we didn't get the full scope of Willy Wonka.
I have a gift for each of you, but for now, let us rest. You can have it first thing in the morning.
It's any love I have for the Night of the Hunter really comes
Oh my God,
full
I
circle
love
here.
just like forced and soft incoming red backlighting with just black. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, the darkness in this movie is certainly a product of the creative intent, but also a circumstance of the budget. I was inspired to write this scene because
This is the point.
Scott and I had, lived together for a while. And there was one night where I woke up in the middle of the night, and this was Scott wrapped in bandages with a shotgun standing over my bed. And
My stomach was pulsating.
Well, no, my stomach was pulsating because I was the one in the bed.
Oh, okay.
Your face was wrapped in bandages, looking like Darkman. And I said, "Hold that thought, Scott. I think we have a movie on our hands here."
All right, we made it.
I will.
time.